Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your favorite flower girl here, Joy Williams, and I am coming to you with a little bit of an informational video today. As a licensed cosmetologist and a professional expert in the field of beauty, as well as an educator for a major international worldwide hair company, I often get the question of how do I know what my hair texture is? How do I know how to take care of my hair for my particular hair texture and type? I have multiple hair textures and types. How does that work? So I figured I would put this little chart here together for you and come to you kind of asking some of those really pressing questions that I've been getting over the course of the years. So get your notepad out, buckle up, let's take some notes. So what I have here is real easy sort of hair type chart. And we're gonna go over the different types of hair types. We have type 1, which is straight hair, type 2, wavy, type 3, curly, type 4, coily. And I'll go through each of the different hair types and textures in a second. But what I wanna talk to you guys first about is understanding that no matter what your race is, what your ethnicity is, every one of us has multiple hair types and textures. This chart was actually invented by Andre Walker a long time ago, quick history lesson because you know I'm a nerd, who was Oprah Winfrey's hairstylist. And it was sort of a chart to kind of help quantify all these different hair types and textures that we see. Now, this is not set in stone. This is not something that is not fluid and does not change from one person to another. Some people can have multiple hair types, like I said, on one head. So just kind of use it as a general guide. And then from there, you can kind of find your place, okay? So just know that and understand that. Also, when it comes to, we have these 4 hair types. That doesn't matter what race you are. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, Asian, purple, blue. There's 4 different hair types, and then you have subtextures in each of these hair types. 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, so on and so forth. And so that helps us to really get that thing out of our mind first and foremost, that okay, when I go here, I'm talking about African American hair, and when I'm here, I'm talking about white hair. Not true. I've seen some very kinky, coarse hair on some blonde hair, blue-eyed people, and I've seen some very straight, fine, baby soft, natural hair on some African American folks. So again, get out of your mind ethnicity, race, those types of things. We're just talking about hair types, hair textures, and you find your place within that. Cool? All right, so the first hair type we have is gonna be type 1. It's gonna be generally gonna be your straight hair, okay? So we have type 1A, 1B, and 1C. Straight hair tends to reflect the most sheen. Straight hair cuticles tend to be very closed cuticles. It's a lot of times the most resilient hair in that you can do a lot of stuff to it and it'll tend to bounce back for you. It's not as fragile as other hair types. The hair follicle is normally round, okay? So very circular, normally round, comes straight out of the head, straight, okay? So, and you're gonna be able to do a lot of more things to it. So you have here 1A, 1B, and 1C. Now, you're looking at and you're saying, okay, there's a slight difference and I want you to understand the difference. So 1A, you see how fine, you can kind of see through it. Like I don't even have to hold my hand behind it. You can pretty much kind of see through it. It's very fine hair. It's typically kind of straight, tends to be a little limp. Then you have type 1B, which is a little bit of a thicker hair type. And then you have 1C, which has a little bit more texture to it, but still generally is straight, normally doesn't hold a curl type of thing. So wherever you find your hair in these areas, you know, that's gonna be your type A, okay? Your type 1, which is gonna be your straight hair. You're going to understand that this hair type can be, chemicals can be used very easily with this hair type. You can do multiple chemicals and those types of things. You still want to be aware that hair is fabric, and that is always my biggest thing, is always helping people understand, no matter what your hair type and texture is, understand that it's fabric. And so just like your clothing fabric can only go so far, so is when it comes to your hair fabric, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind as we go along this list. I don't want this to be real super long, and I hate rambling. So we're gonna go to the next one, which is gonna be type 2. So type 2 is gonna be your wavy hair. Wavy hair is going to reflect less sheen than straight hair, but certainly more than curly hair. The follicles are usually gonna be oval shaped, okay? So they're gonna lay a little bit longer, all right? They're gonna be oval shaped, and it's a little bit more prone to frizz and needs lightweight moisture. So we have here type 2A, okay, that nice loose body wave, come on bundle, right? Then we have a type B where it's a little bit of a tighter sort of wave. There's a little bit more texture. You see how this one has a very clearly defined pattern here, whereas this is a little bit less clear, but there's still some sheen there, you know? And then you have type 2C, which is gonna kind of be, if you were looking at bundles, you look at this kind of like a loose sort of wave, right? And so the difference with this hair type and texture is that it's going to be prone to more frizz, okay? So for example, if I'm in Texas and going out with type 2A hair with no products, you're gonna have a lot of sort of frizz and those types of things. You're gonna need a little bit more moisture. Whereas here, you wanna be very mindful of how much product you put. If you have a type 1 hair or type straight, you have straight hair in any type texture, 1A, 1B, 1C, then you're gonna be very mindful of how much product, because you're probably only gonna be able to do like a leave-in conditioner and one other product. You're not gonna wanna do a whole lot of stuff to your hair because those cuticles are already closed. It's already gonna have what it needs. When you come to type 2, you're gonna need a little bit more. You're gonna need a little bit more moisture. You're gonna use more conditioning sort of products, but you wanna be mindful of how heavy the products that you're using on your hair are. For example, your leave-in conditioners, you're gonna wanna stay in something that is a liquid, definitely a liquid for type 1, but you're in with a type 2, you're gonna wanna stay something in between a liquid and a very runny cream. You don't wanna use a really thick cream, okay? Because that's going to tend to weigh your hair down. But you're gonna need something so that you can prevent like frizz and stuff like that. So just to kind of understand, I don't wanna get too specific into brands and things like that because I am doing some YouTube videos on those. And so you guys will be able to check those out. Some of those are already posted and I'll post links in the description box for that. So type 3, we're going into more curly hair. Curly hair has a definite S shape. Type 3 hair has a loose S shape, type 3A. Type 3B has a tighter S shape. Type 3C is gonna resemble, we're going into that Z pattern shape with type 3C. The follicles are elliptical shaped, okay? So if you ever think about an oval kind of flat, all right? So when that hair is growing out of the head, whereas when it's round, it's growing straight out the head, right? When it's oval, it's kind of curving. When it's elliptical shape, that hair is growing along the scalp first and then coming out, okay? That kind of helps you understand like how that works. Hopefully that was a good visualization. And so you're gonna be very, very aware of this hair because it is full bodied. It is climate dependent, which means that if you have humidity, you shall have frizz. So you wanna address that. And then also it needs a lot of moisture and it's a lot more fragile than type 1 and type 2, okay? Again, we're talking about hair types and then the textures within those types, all right? So we have 3A here, which is this guy, those nice, beautiful curls. We're gonna have 3B, which is not too different, but there is a little bit more of a definite pattern. You see how this is a little bit more defined and this is a little bit less defined. It's also a looser curl. This one tends to be a little bit more coarse, okay? And then you have a type 3C, which has a lot of these different patterns and waves and really pretty sort of, we're going into here, we have this Z texture, right? So we've come completely out of the S's. We're still kind of in the S's here. Here we've come completely out of the S pattern and we're getting more into that Z pattern. And now we're also losing some sheen. You see that? You see how like the other hair types was reflecting a lot of sheen and this one is not as shiny, right? So this is all human hair, okay, that I have on my board. So it's not like synthetic versus human. It's all human hair that I have on the board. But I just wanted you to kind of see that when you get here, you're gonna need more moisture. So when it's reflecting less sheen, that means that it needs more moisture. It has less natural sheen there. So you see that type 3C. Again, you're gonna wanna make sure that you use products. Here you're gonna wanna use a lot of creams. You're gonna wanna start to layer your products when you're on type 3C. You may need to use a leave-in conditioner and then follow up with a cream and then seal that with an oil. You know, you may want to play with the LOC method or LCO or whatever works for you, right? Like, I'm not gonna get into the arguments about how all of that works because I do hair and I don't get paid to argue with people. I get paid to do hair. So we're gonna do that. And so that's going to be your type 3, going to be your curly type of hair types. For example, you're going to look at like your Tracy Ellis Ross, you know, those type of people that's going to have kind of in that type 3 going into type 4 type of hair. So that way you know what that's going to look like as well. Because I also get a lot of questions from moms that are like, I don't know what to do with my baby's hair. So that's what this video is for you guys to kind of get a general idea, and then we'll kind of break down a few more things. So then we have type 4 hair, which is my category, and that's going to be coily hair. So type 4 hair is going to be the most porous hair type. I'm going to talk to you about porosity in a second. So type 4 is going to be the most porous hair type. It is quite fragile. It's defined. It's going to be definitely elliptical shaped, or it even can be hooked. We're going in this pattern, we're going to have more of a corkscrew or a zigzag pattern. Remember I talked about we're going into the Z's here. We're definitely in the Z in this category, okay? So we're no longer making S shapes, we're making Z's. It's going to be growing at the same rate. Here's the one thing that I tend to find is that, oh, you know, because my hair is this type or texture, I feel like it grows slower. No, ma'am. It's actually growing at the same length. I know a lot of times, and this is what I've heard, tell me if you've heard this growing up, when you have your friends who have hair this type and you're like, oh, your hair grows so fast. Their hair grows about the same rate that yours grow. Hair normally grows about in half an inch to an inch, depending on genetics and conditions and the health and et cetera, of your hair, depending on those conditions. Hair grows about a half an inch a month, okay? Whether you are type 1 or type 4. It is just a matter of, because this hair is already stretched out, you can see those differences faster. Does that make sense? So with the type 4, you can look at this and in 6 months, it almost look just like this. But then when you pull it and you stretch it, you'll say, oh, okay, she got a little growth. She got a little something going on. So just so that you can know that. Also, you see how little shine it has. Again, this is human hair. It's not going to reflect a lot of sheen. What does that mean? I need to put that shine back into my hair. I need to put that moisture back into my hair type and texture. So you have type 4A. So we have that Z pattern, but it's a little less kinky. It's more just going to be those defined types of curls. This is going to be that hair where once you put a little product on there, you can find that definition a little bit faster. Definitely not as easy as a type 3, but you will be able to kind of find your curl pattern a little easier, depending on the product. Also, you have to be very aware because, like I said, type 4 is a lot less porous, than other hair types. So then you have type 4B, okay? And so that's going to give you definitely that zigzag pattern, show you that up close, right? So there's still a little bit of definition in there. I tend to fall, honestly, I have all 3 of these types on my head, to be very honest with you. And it's probably some areas where I have a type 3C, because right in the front, like I tend to have to, when I used to heat style, I don't heat style my hair anymore, but if I put a little bit of heat, I mean a little bit of heat on the front of my hair, she started going into S curl patterns. She's like, oh, I don't want to do it no more. She goes straight out of 4, goes right on into 3. So right in the front of my hair, she doesn't like heat. So we won't fool with heat no more. In the back, I am very, very, very much a type 4C and throughout, but I also fall a little bit more in the 4B sort of category. I have low porosity. Now, speaking of porosity, since I was talking to you about different hair types and textures and what porosity and what that looks like. So the easiest thing, the first thing that I'll talk to you about is elasticity. Hair elasticity is the ability, just when you think about elasticity, think about an elastic band, a rubber band, right? So your hair elasticity is going to be the ability of your hair to stretch, how far it can do that before it pops, before it breaks, okay? So think about your hair elasticity in that way. Hair porosity is going to be the ability of your hair to absorb moisture, okay? So a real quick and easy way, and actually I just decided I'm gonna do a video. So I'll come back and do a video of the porosity test, because essentially the porosity test is where you're gonna take a glass of water and you're gonna take your hair, like when you comb through it or whatever, and that hair that kind of just naturally sheds, you're gonna take that hair, you're gonna drop it in the water. If your hair floats, you let it sit for a few minutes. If your hair floats and stays floating, you have very low porosity. What that means is that your cuticle's already closed. You have to kind of Be gentle with them a little bit, open them up so that they can receive moisture. This also means that your hair dries really, really quickly. It means that your hair tends to, you gotta put the moisture in there because it's like closed off. It doesn't want to receive a lot of moisture. So you got to make sure that you put your moisture in there, which means also your hair tends to feel very dry sometimes. Okay. And you're wondering, how do I get moisture in there? So we're going to talk about that when I come back to the porosity test. If your hair if it floats, it's low porosity. If it slowly starts to go down, it's kind of normal porosity. I don't know many people that have normal porosity hair. And I've been doing hair for almost 20 years. Just saying. And then high porosity is if you put your hair in that glass of water and it immediately sinks to the bottom of the glass, boo, you have high porosity hair. What that means is that your hair is thirsty. It is saying your cuticles are completely open and it is saying, give me all the moisture, give me all the stuff. You have to be aware of that. And there's not a good or a bad. Like, don't hear me say that. It's not good or bad. It's a space of understanding how to take care of your hair and what that means when it comes to how to take care of your hair. The purpose of this video was to kind of go through those hair types so that you can understand what that means. And then I'll come back with a little bit more detail. But let me know what you think about this video. Let me know if it was informational for you. If you have questions, please hit me up. I definitely want to do question and answer sort of thing. And then we'll come back with a couple more ideas. Make sure that you like and subscribe, Joy Williams Beauty, down in the description box. And I'll see y'all later.